Okay, well, hello again. Welcome to session number 2. So let's see here. Before we start, I've decided to continue to host these on Google Hangouts for the first 4 or 5 sessions. And after that, I'm going to be looking at better options if you all are still keen on these continuing. I love the support thus far. These would be impossible without your support. So continue to favorite and retweet our tweets, like us on Facebook if you haven't already, and tell your friends about Real Python. Little things like that can make such a huge difference. Okay, well, we're going to jump right in, and let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so today we're going to be taking this little static Hello World app that we created last time and bringing it into the world of Web 2.0 by making it dynamic. And again, this is what we're going to be building here, this Get Matched, and it's kind of like a Tinder for finding developers. And so what you can do is you can just type in a city, click search, and that's embarrassing. My API rate limit has been exceeded. So it looks like a number of people have used this, so it's actually not working right now. So what it does, and you've seen this last time, is it searches a city. It uses the GitHub API, searches by city, and pulls developers in so you can find pair programmers. That's what we're going to be creating. And I've also decided to add another session to add Angular into the mix. I know everyone is keen on learning Angular and how to use that along with Flask, so I'm definitely going to do a session on that, and I think that'll probably be a 5th session at that point. Go ahead and open up your terminal and then navigate to your project directory. And then let's go ahead and activate our virtual environment. So source, environment, then activate. And just double check here. Actually, I'm not in my project directory. That's why that was not working. And so let me run that same command now. Okay, so my virtual environment is activated. And then go ahead and open up your project in a code editor such as Sublime Text. And then let's open up our app.py file. So this is what we created last time, just a basic Hello World app. So let's go ahead and update this. First, let's take this current URL and let's change it so that it responds to requests at hello. And then let's update the view function name to hello as well. And so now let's go ahead and create a new function and call it home. And then we can use the app.route, and we'll map that to, it's going to respond to requests to this main URL here. Okay, so this time, instead of simply returning a string, let's render a template. So we can say return render underscore template, and we can just call this template index.html. And don't forget to update the imports. Okay, so now we need to add an index.html template. And by default, all templates should be placed in a folder called templates. And that should be in the main app directory. So let's open back up the terminal here. Our main app directory is going to be within that app folder. So we can just make a new directory called templates. CD into that directory, and then we can create that index.html file. Cool, so you can see it here on Sublime. And so now let's just use a boilerplate template, which includes the required markup for an HTML file. And you can actually grab that from the repository here. And if you go to github.com/realpython and then this Flask Single Page App, and I'll go ahead and put the URL into this live coding session here. So if you grab this boilerplate.html file here, and let's just copy and paste the markup here to Sublime. Let's go ahead and paste that into there. And if you'd like to learn more about this basic HTML structure, I do have a free resource on RealPython for this. If you just go to realpython.com, click More, click Resources, and check out this first resource here. It's just a basic introduction to HTML and CSS. So now going back to Sublime Text here, all should be set up correctly. So let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm going to cd back out. I need to be in the app directory. So I'm going to say python app.py. Okay, so now we can check the results in our browser. So if you go to localhost 5000, you can see the hello world template here. And if we go to hello, this is the other route that we have set up. So we have a route that responds on hello and another route that responds to this main route here. And again, this main route is rendering a template. Cool. All right, so far so good. So let's take this a step further and let's pass in an argument to the template. So if we go back to Sublime Text and let's say we can say string equals, well, let's just say world here. Now we can update the template to render that string using the Jinja 2 templating syntax. So if we go to index.html, let's go ahead and change this right here and change that to string. So we're passing in an argument called string. And then we're using this Jinja 2 syntax, which includes these double curly braces. And everything between double curly braces, you want to place pretty much variables between double curly braces. So if we save that and we go back to the browser here and refresh, you can see here world, which is the string that we passed in. And you can obviously change that to whatever you want. Cool. So I'm going to hop back to the chat real quick just to make sure there's no questions. Okay, we're good. If I'm moving too fast, just let me know. Moving too slow, let me know. Just whatever I'm doing wrong, just let me know. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make this app dynamic. So back in Sublime Text, let's update this view function so that it takes a value through the URL query parameter. So we can do that by saying int value, and then we need to put a parameter here of value. And then let's go ahead and add 1 to that value. So create a new variable called add1, and we'll say value plus 1. And then let's go ahead and return that value by passing it as a new argument to the template. So we'll just call that value equals add1. Now we need to update the templates, obviously. So we can, let's put this in a paragraph. So we'll say the calculated value is, then value, and the closing p tag there. If you go back to the browser now and you refresh this, we're going to get a 404 not found. That's because the route is actually different and now must have an integer in it. So how about we test out 8? So 8 is passed from the client side to the server side. We're adding 1 to it, and then we return it back to the client side by passing the new value as a template argument. So I hope that makes sense. So if we go back to Sublime Text, so basically we're sending 8 as a query parameter, and then within our views here, we're grabbing that value, passing it into the function here. We're adding 1 to it, and then we're passing it back as an argument to the template, and then we're rendering it right here. Okay, so taking this one step further, let's add a form to this template. So again, I'm going to just copy and paste just for time's sake right now. If you go to the repository, click app, click templates, index.html. You can see the form we have here. Go ahead and grab the entire form. And then let's go ahead and paste that right here. And let's remove the second input and change the name, just the number for now. Go ahead and save that. And then back within our app.py file, let's go and make some changes to this main view function. So first, let's remove the query parameter part here. And then let's add some other methods here. So we'll do a get as well as a post. And so by default, routes are set up to respond to GET requests. However, since we need to handle a post request, as we're going to be sending a value to the server side via a form submission, we need to actually explicitly add the post method to this route. So then we can remove the query parameter here. And so now we need to handle a post request correctly. And we can do so by adding just a basic conditional. So if we say if request.method is equal to post. So here we're using Flask request object to test if the HTTP method is a post. We want to make sure that we import that object in, just up at the top here. And so if it is a post request, then we need to grab the value that's going to be submitted by the user from that form. So we can say value equals request.form, and this, we'll say number there. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we're doing here. So we're grabbing the value from the request object, and that comes from the form input box with the name of number. So if we go back to our index file here, we can see that we have an input here, and we've assigned name to number. And we also need to convert this to an integer, since this is going to come in as a string. So we'll cast that to an integer. And so save this real quick. Add that over one. Add that over. See what the issue is here. Multiple spaces before operator. I have more spaces there. So this is everything this is going to handle the post request. So if the method is post, we're grabbing the value from the form, we're adding 1 to it, and then we are passing it back. And so we also obviously need to handle GET requests. So what we can do is I'll just copy and paste this. So if it's a GET request, we are just going to literally render the template and pass in the string. Okay. So let's test this out in the browser. Reload that. Okay. So there was a syntax error from before. That's why it killed the server. So let's go ahead and fire back up the server again. Okay. So let's enter a number. Let's try 8 again. Click submit, and you can see the calculated value is 9. 10. It's going to, no matter what we enter there, it's going to continue to add 1 to it, obviously. Cool. So that is working. And this is a little bit of a mess right now, so let's go ahead and clean this up. So how about we add another input box so that we're adding 2 values together. So we have like a little calculator kind of going on here. And then we'll remove the string argument passed in, and then we'll also kind of make this HTML page look decent. So let's start by adding another input. Just copy and paste this. So let's call this number 1 and number 2. Now I want to add some quick styles to this, and we should actually add an external style sheet, but I'm going to do this quick and dirty since we're doing this to save some time, and I'm just going to go ahead and put them right here so we can say style, and style the put some styles on the container class here. And again, if you're not familiar with HTML and CSS, go ahead and check out that free resource that I showed you before. And let's set a max width on this. We'll set it to 500 pixels. And then let's add some padding to the top. Let's say 30 pixels. And then for the input, let's do a max width on that. And we'll say the max width is 200 pixels. Go ahead and close this here. And let's see what else. So how about we update the H1 element here, call this adder, break in here. Some of the spacing is off here. Okay. All right. Let's update the title. Bootstrap 101 template is not really relevant or very interesting. Okay. So if we refresh that, looks a little bit better. And so since we're now using 2 different inputs instead of 1, let's go ahead and update the view. So let's just put 2 different variables here. So value 1, and set that to number 1. And copy and paste this. So we'll do value 2. And that's going to be associated with value 2. Remember, these come from number. Or, I'm sorry, these come from the name here. And let's go ahead and change this to total. And we will total value 1 plus value 2. And then let's take this out, set the value to total. And I'll take this out here. Cool. And so in the index.html, everything looks correct. Let's test this out again. Back in the browser, let's go ahead and refresh it again. So let's enter a number, enter another number, click submit. At 30. Cool. All right, so we're looking pretty good. Let's go back to the terminal. I'm going to go ahead and kill the server here. Then I'm going to cd back out to our main directory here. Let's go ahead and commit our changes to Git, to our local GitHub, or our local Git repository, that is. So I'll say git add -a, and then git commit, and let's put it in the message, created a basic calculator app, I guess. Kind of a stretch whether that's really a calculator. Okay, so those have been placed into our local repository. And if you have a GitHub repo set up, you can go ahead and push your code up there now. And then when done, go ahead and deactivate your virtual environment. Okay, so that's all that I have today. We did cover quite a bit of stuff, and I did go kind of fast on it, I guess. So let's talk about what we covered. We added a template to our Hello World app. We looked briefly at Jinja templating. We touched on dynamic routes using query parameters. We styled our app using HTML and CSS, and we made a dynamic calculator / adder type app. And so next time we're going to actually start playing around with the GitHub API. And so that's when things are going to start getting fun. When we access data from it, we'll get the data back in JSON, and then we'll start parsing that data and then adding that data to the DOM. And let me actually go ahead and unshare my screen now so you guys can see me again. If you have any questions, please email me at info@realpython.com, or you can just post something in that chat area. Let's see. If not, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.